Hi, good morning. Ed Sambo here once again, and this time we are now on episode number 14. And the topic for today will be Christmas, the birth of Christ. When is the birth of Jesus Christ? Is it really December 25 as being observed by Christians all over the world? If it is not December 25, when was Jesus Christ really born? Can the Bible help us in knowing the date when Christ was born? Let me answer these questions by using Bible verses, but first of all, let me give you a little background. Why was it that December 25 is being observed by Christians as the birthday of Jesus Christ? It was 330 AD when the word Christmas was invented by pagan Rome, in which they set December 25 as the birthday of Jesus Christ to coincide with the celebration of the unconquered Son. S-U-N, Son. This is a pagan tradition. As you would notice, the word Christmas only appeared 330 years after the death of Jesus Christ. Even the apostles of Christ were not celebrating the birth of Christ during their time. Now let us try to analyze if December 25 is really the birthday of Jesus Christ by using logic. I will resort to biblical verses as I go along my explanations. First of all, the birthday of Christ was called Christmas, which means Mass for Christ. Why in the world will Christ need a Mass for? Does Christ need a Mass? And during the month of December, Bethlehem, the supposed birthplace of Christ, is fully covered with snow. The roads, houses, even cars are covered by snow. Even the terrain of Bethlehem is covered with snow. It is winter time in Bethlehem during the month of December. In the book of Luke, chapter 2, verses 1 to 7, it says, "In those days Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria, and everyone went to his own town to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem in the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him, and he was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn." In these verses, you would notice that Joseph and Mary took shelter in the place where the sheep and animals were being kept. And the baby was placed in the manger. It means that the manger is empty. A manger is a trough or open box in a stable designed to hold feed or fodder for livestock. The reason why the manger was empty, it was because all the sheep and other animals were out in the field being watched by shepherds while they were eating. These animals will not be out in the field eating if it was winter time. It is very clear then that Jesus Christ was not born in the month of December, because when Christ was born, it was not winter time, as evidenced by the presence of the shepherds out in the field feeding their sheep. It would be illogical if the shepherds were feeding their animals out in the field if it was winter. Can the animals eat the snow instead of grass? Secondly, Caesar Augustus will not issue a decree to have a census if it was winter time. How can the people comply with such a decree and to travel coming from far away places if it was winter? As you know, that during those times, the Romans were in power, and disobeying such a decree will mean a severe punishment for them. These verses will prove that Christ was not born in the month of December, more particularly on the 25th day of December. Therefore, if Christ was not born on the 25th day of December, when was Christ really born? Although the Bible did not state the exact date of the birth of Christ, we could compute it biblically to the nearest week, and that would be from the last week of September to the first week of October. Then it is not December. Now, how did I arrive with this conclusion? To prove this, let me resort to Bible verses again. In the book of Luke, chapter 1, verses 5 to 15, I'm going to shorten it. It says, in the time of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah, who belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. His wife Elizabeth was also a descendant of Aaron. Both of them were upright in the sight of God, observing all the Lord's commandments and regulations blamelessly. As you all know, the son of Zechariah and Elizabeth was named John the Baptist. And John the Baptist was 6 months older than Jesus Christ. I will prove this later by upcoming verses. And please note of the line which says, a priest named Zechariah, who belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. Who is Abijah? Abijah existed during the Old Testament, and incidentally, Zechariah belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. Now let me continue. In the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 24, verses 7 to 19, it says, the first lot fell to Jehoiarib, the second to Jedaiah, the third to Harim, the fourth to Seurim, the fifth to Malchok, the sixth to Mijamin, the seventh to Hakoz, and the eighth to Abijah. Now take note, the eighth group fell to Abijah, and Zechariah belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. During the time of Moses, or during the time of the Israelites had formed 24 groups, or what they call the divisions of priests, to serve at the temple for 1 year. Now, there are 12 months in the Hebrew calendar, and 2 groups were supposed to serve every month. The first group will serve on the first 2 weeks of the first month, and the second group will serve on the last 2 weeks of that same first month. The third group will serve on the first 2 weeks of the second month, and the fourth group will serve on the last 2 weeks of that same month, and so on with other groups until the last month of the year. As you would notice, the group of Abijah belongs to the eighth group, and the group of Abijah was supposed to serve on the last 2 weeks of the fourth month. To make these things more understandable, let me illustrate here the Hebrew calendar as compared to our present calendar. Please take note that the Israelites were using the Hebrew calendar during those times, and we as Christians, we are now using the present calendar. Let me present here a chart that would make things more simpler. As you would notice here in this chart, we have here the Hebrew calendar, and on the other side we have the present calendar. And the Hebrew calendar is composed of 12 months, namely Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Ab, Elul, Tishri, Shesban, Kislev, Tibet, Shebat, Adar. And the month of Nisan, also known as the month of Abib in the Old Testament, is from the month of March to the month of April in our present calendar. So Nisan or Abib will start on the last 2 weeks of March, and it will end on the first 2 weeks of April. And the month of Iyar would start on the first 2 weeks of April and will end on the last 2 weeks of May, and so on. As you would notice, the group of Abijah was on the eighth group. That means to say, the group of Abijah will serve on the temple on the fourth month, or on the month of Tammuz. Tammuz now corresponds to the last 2 weeks of June to the first 2 weeks of July. So when Zechariah was in the temple serving, Zechariah was in the temple in the month of Tammuz, or in the last 2 weeks of June to the first 2 weeks of July. In that month of Tammuz, the angel appeared to Zechariah and announced that Elizabeth, his wife, will bear a child according to the order of God the Father. So when Zechariah went home and laid with Elizabeth, his wife, Elizabeth became pregnant on the month of Ab, the fifth month, on the month of Ab, compared to the last 2 weeks of July to the first 2 weeks of August. As what I have said, when John the Baptist, the son of Elizabeth, was born, John the Baptist was 6 months older than Jesus Christ, because Mary, the wife of Joseph, became pregnant when Elizabeth was 6 months on her pregnancy. So if we are going to compute this mathematically, John the Baptist was 6 months older than Jesus Christ. So Mary became pregnant when John the Baptist was 6 months old in the belly of Elizabeth. And Christ was born 9 months after. If we are going to compute that, it would be 6 months plus 9 months, and that would make 15 months. 6 months John the Baptist was older than Christ, and 9 months when Jesus Christ was born. Let's add that 6 months plus 9 months, that became 15 months. Now, since Elizabeth became pregnant on the month of Ab, here, on the month of Ab, we are going to add from the month of Ab 15 months. As what I have said, 6 months from John the Baptist and 9 months from Jesus Christ. That makes 15 months. Now let us try to count from the month of Ab. Month of Ab, 1, Elul, 2, Tishri, 3, Sheshban, 4, Kislev, 5, Tibet, 6, Shebat, 7, Adar, 8, Nisan, 9, Iyar, 10, Sivan, 11, Tammuz, 12, Ab, 13, Elul, 14, 15, Tishri. So 15 months, it ended on the month of Tishri, equivalent to the last 2 weeks of September to the first week of October. So Jesus Christ was born on the month of Tishri, or last 2 weeks of September to the first 2 weeks of October. So definitely, based on these biblical verses, Jesus Christ was possibly born on this time range, last 2 weeks of September to the first 2 weeks of October. Definitely, it was not December, because December was winter time in Bethlehem. But September to October, it was not winter time in Bethlehem. So this was the possible date when Jesus Christ was born. Take note, it was not December. So it seems that we had been celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ since 330 AD on the wrong date. In my own opinion, there is nothing wrong with celebrating the birthday of Jesus Christ, but it is our duty to know at least that Christ was not born on the 25th of December. It is also our duty to learn at least the nearest date with regards to the birthday of Christ. According to my clock on my cell phone, I am now on the 18th minute, and I am allowed up to the 33rd minute on my cell phone. That means to say, I still have a lot of time to go over this topic and to let you be familiarized with this topic, Christmas. Let me go over it again, and this time I'm going to ad-lib my explanations. So, let's go back. Christmas, December 25. Most churches would say that Jesus Christ was born on December 25. But incidentally, Christ was born in Bethlehem. And December, in the month of December, it was winter time during those time in Bethlehem. And when Christ was born, he was born in the manger, in which the manger was empty, which means that the animals on that stable were out in the field, being taken by the shepherds to feed. How can the animals feed on snow? They are supposed to feed on grass, isn't it? So the shepherds were feeding their sheep in the field on the month of December. It wouldn't be, because it was winter time on the month of December. That means to say, the shepherds were not out on the month of December. They were out on the month when it was not winter time, and that was before the month of December. So Christ was not born on the month of December. It was concluded biblically that Christ was born on the last 2 weeks of September to the first 2 weeks of October, which was proven when Zechariah was serving in the temple. Zechariah was under the division of Abijah in the Old Testament. And Abijah was on the 8th group. His group was assigned to serve in the temple on the 8th group during the time of Moses, during the time of Aaron. Moses had formed 24 groups to serve in the temple for 12 months. That means to say for every month there would be 2 groups who would serve on the temple. The first group would serve the first 2 weeks. The second group would serve the second 2 weeks of that month. So in each month, 2 groups will serve on the temple, which corresponds to 12 groups in 1 year. And incidentally, the group of Abijah belongs to the 8th group. And the group of Abijah will serve on the 4th month of the Hebrew calendar, which was in the month of Tammuz, equivalent to the month of June, to the month of July. So when Zechariah was in the temple serving the Lord, Zechariah was in the temple on the month of Tammuz based on the Hebrew calendar, which was June to July in our present calendar. And on that month, the angel appeared to Zechariah, telling Zechariah that his wife Elizabeth will bear a child because Elizabeth was barren because of their age. They were past their time. They were already old. So how can Elizabeth bear a child if she was that old? But God had promised Elizabeth that she will bear a child according to the angel. And take note that Zechariah was serving in the temple on the 4th month of the month, which was Tammuz, or June, July to our present calendar. So when Zechariah went home to Elizabeth, he laid with Elizabeth, and definitely Elizabeth became pregnant on the month of Ab, equivalent to July to August in our present calendar. And take note that John the Baptist, when John the Baptist was born, John the Baptist was 6 months older than Jesus Christ. When Elizabeth was on the 6th month of her pregnancy, Elizabeth visited Mary, the wife of Joseph. And during those times, the angel Gabriel expressed to Mary that Mary would also bear a child, which she will call by the name of Jesus. When Jesus was born after 9 months, that means to say, John the Baptist was 6 months older than Jesus Christ. So if we are going to count from 6 months of the pregnancy of Elizabeth to the 9 months of the pregnancy of Mary, that would be 6 months plus 9 months, which is now equivalent to 15 months. So we are going to start counting on the month when Elizabeth became pregnant. And according to the Bible, Elizabeth became pregnant on the month of Ab, which is equivalent to the month of July to the month of August. From the month of Ab, we have to count 15 months. Why? Because 6 months from John the Baptist and 9 months pregnancy of Mary. That makes 15 months. Let us try to count from the month of Ab once more. It says here, the month of Ab, 1, Elul, 2, Tisri, 3, Shesban, 4, Kislev, 5, Tevet, 6, Shebat, 7, Adar, 8, Nisan, 9, Iyar, 10, Sivan, 11, Tammuz 12, Av 13, Elul 14, and 15th month fell on the month of Tisri based on the Hebrew calendar, which is equivalent to the month of September to the month of October. Tisri would be from the last 2 weeks of September to the first 2 weeks of October. So definitely, biblically, Christ was born on the last 2 weeks of September to the first 2 weeks of October. That is very, very close now to the birth of Christ. We could never compute the exact day or the exact date when Christ was born. But we could go as close as 1 week to 1 week. We could say last week of September to the first week of October. That was the time when Jesus Christ was born. It was either September or October, but not the month of December, because the month of December in Bethlehem when Christ was born was winter time. And definitely the shepherds will not be out in the field feeding their sheep and other animals when it was winter time. The Bible stated that the shepherds were out in the field feeding their sheep. So that was not December. That was the time when there was no winter yet. And that was the time on the last week of September to the first week of October. It is very clear then, my fellow Bible-believing Christians, that there are some big religions and congregations and churches all over the world that are teaching their members that Christ was born on December 25. This is totally erroneous. Christ was never born on December 25. Christ was born on the last week of September to the first week of October. Never believe that Christ was born on December 25. It was a big church, it was a big religion that made December 25 as the birth of Christ to coincide with the unconquerable Son. Unconquerable Son. Son is spelled as S-U-N, not S-O-N. And because of these actions by the big churches, this is blasphemy. You are now comparing the birth of Christ to the celebration of the unconquerable Son, which was a pagan tradition. How can they do this? It was purely blasphemy to place the date of the birth of Christ on December 25, when December 25 was the celebration of a pagan Roman celebration, the unconquered Son. So my fellow Bible-believing Christians, take note that it is very clear that Jesus Christ was not born on December 25. And I would insist up to now, I am going to bet my blood on this, that Jesus Christ was born from the last week of September to the first week of October. There's nothing wrong with celebrating the birthday of Jesus Christ on December 25. But at least we have to know the whole story, the story behind this celebration. We celebrate December 25 as Christmas, but behind our minds, we know that Jesus Christ was not born on December 25. Behind our minds, we know that Jesus Christ was born on the last week of September to the first week of October. My fellow Bible-believing Christians, continue celebrating the birth of Christ. If the tradition was December 25, okay, celebrate the birthday of Christ on December 25. But at least you know the whole story behind this tradition. At least you know when you are celebrating it on December 25, you are going along with other people because this tradition had started 2,000 years ago. But at least you know the real story behind this. My fellow Bible believing Christians, I broadcast once a week or twice or once every 2 weeks depending on my schedule. And if you would like to view the other broadcasts that I had made, just go to YouTube, go to the word search, and type my name, Edgardo Sambo, and you could view all the other broadcasts that I had made from episode number 1 to episode number 13. And if I would ask you a favor, how would you like to subscribe? And don't forget to ring the notification bell. And don't forget that I will appear before you once again, either next week or 2 weeks from now. In the meantime, I would say bye-bye and have a good day. Thank you very much.